Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 ways to confuse a narcissist. When you're dealing with a narcissist, one of the main things that you can do to sort of regain your power is to throw them off their emotional center. And this is actually what they do with us all of the time. This is a technique that they frequently use, just kind of the whole hot and cold, nice and mean, all that kind of stuff. That's all meant to keep us in a constant tumultuous state, to keep us off our emotional center. Because if you're off your emotional center and you feel anxious or stressed or confused or whatever, then you're a lot easier to manipulate. So we want to kind of reverse that and to make them start trying to figure out what we're doing, or to make them try to figure out what's going on. And when you can confuse them in that way, it will start to help you regain your emotional power in the situation. So before we dive into the 3 ways, let me just remind you, if you like this content, don't forget to hit like on the video and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. When we're talking about the 3 ways that you can confuse a narcissist and help to throw them off their emotional kind of center, I think one of the first things that we have to do, and this is always my first line of defense when I start working with a client, and that is to stop feeding into the drama. Right. So the way that I describe this, I often tell people, like, don't engage, don't react emotionally, only the facts. And a lot of times people think that they aren't engaging emotionally because they feel like they're not putting down all the things that they feel like putting down. So that makes them think that they're not engaging emotionally. But a lot of times we are, in that we're kind of following the narcissist's emotional lead. In other words, if they're short, if they're not too nice, if they're, wording things in a specific way, a lot of times we'll mirror that. And then sometimes when they become nice, we'll kind of let our guard down and we're like, "Oh, okay, we can be a little more nice. This is the phase we're in now." And we sort of follow them into that emotional process. And that is feeding into the drama, because that creates the highs and the lows in the emotional things, which is part of what gives them their power. And so the way that you start to take that back is you need to be consistent. You need to be steady Eddie. You're always responding in the same manner, same verbiage, same techniques. You're using all the same things consistently, whether they're being nice, whether they're being mean, whether they're being drama, whether they're being calm. It makes no difference. Whatever they're doing, you're going to still utilize your same boundaries and your same methods of communication. Okay. One of the things that will do for you also is you'll feel better. You will be more emotionally centered, because your emotions won't be going on this ebb and flow all the time with them, when you learn to consistently draw that boundary. Now, it can be hard to do in the beginning. And a lot of my clients, in the first instance, I have to really give a lot of support during this phase where they're going, "Well, do I respond to this? Do I not respond to this? How do I respond? How nice do I be? Do I say no? Can I deny this? Can I agree to this? Can I, all these different issues that come up in the communication. But when you really start to internalize that and understand it, it makes it much easier for you to maintain that consistent boundary with them, which is paramount in regaining your power. The second thing that you can do that I find really throws them off center is to agree with them. Okay, now I know that you're probably going, "What? Why would I agree with them?" And what I mean by that is, let's try to find something that you can agree with in the communication. When you can, this won't always apply, but anytime that you can, like, let's say that they're asking for an extra overnight. Okay, let's say that they're coming off supervised visitation or something of that nature, and they're asking for an overnight, or they're asking for extra parenting time or whatever. And let's say they're asking for an overnight, but you don't think it's appropriate for them to have overnights yet, and you want to stick to daytime visits. You could say, I'm okay with you having some extra time. I know you miss the children, and I think it would be best if we maybe just did an additional daytime visit, which I could do on Tuesday or Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. Give them two options. I always say that, give them two options. But in the first instance, you're not agreeing to the overnight or their specific timeline or whatever, but you're saying, I'm okay with you having some additional parenting time or some extra parenting time or whatever. And so you're setting out an agreement off the bat, which will kind of disarm them, right? They'll kind of go, oh, wow, they agree I should have extra parenting time. Because they're going to be waiting for you to go, nope, 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 nope. And so that's a technique that you can use, is like, okay, what part of this can I agree with, even if I don't agree with the whole thing? It's a great technique. And to a point, they will probably go, what's wrong with this person that they're starting to agree with me? And that again will throw them off their emotional center, because they will start trying to figure out what's wrong and why are you agreeing, right? And that's one of the reasons that I like to give two options also, is it kind of cuts down on that argument back and forth over trying to leverage one specific position, right? If you give them two options and they can choose and they feel like they have some control, a lot of times that will work a lot better. So if you kind of agree with a piece of it that you can, then give the two options, then they're at least getting what they were looking for, which was some additional parenting time, even if it didn't come in the exact way that they were hoping it was going to come. The third thing that you have to do is you really got to maintain your privacy. And part of the reason that you want to do this is because it creates even more illusion that they don't have control over you. Okay. Even if they do to an extent still, and I know in the beginning, this is really hard. And a lot of times emotionally, they do in a lot of ways. My ex-husband pushed my buttons for many, many years after the divorce, even though I tried very hard not to let him know that, but it did impact me emotionally. You want to keep things very private and kind of keep that boundary up and keep that front and not show when they've upset you or hurt your feelings or made you angry or scared you or whatever it is. You really don't want them to know that you're having those emotions, because what a narcissistic person does in that instance is they go, oh, they're feeling that emotion. Now I know I can manipulate them around that issue in particular. And now that they're emotional, I can kind of twist the knife a little bit. Okay. I always like to say a lot of times this isn't conscious for the narcissistic person, in my experience. So I'm not saying they're sitting around plotting how to get at you, although I know it does feel that way sometimes. But most of the time, in my experience, this is such a heavily ingrained way of surviving in the world from the trauma that they've experienced, that all of this just kind of comes naturally. They don't even recognize that they're doing it. And I think that's one reason that we always hear that, almost nobody that's narcissistic ever is cured from that, ever changes, because it's just such a survival mechanism that's ingrained that they literally feel like they will die, if they don't behave in specific ways. And I think we have to remember that privacy is also important, even where the kids are concerned. And by that, I mean you not letting the kids know everything. And I know this can be challenging because our children are, we're a family, right? They kind of see all the blood and guts, right? A lot of times. So, but you have to be really conscious of not sharing things that particularly you don't want the other person to know, maybe around your finances, or when you plan to buy a new car, or when you plan to, like, whatever it is, you want to be really careful, because pretty much anything that you say to the children is going to be game for the other person. And part of the problem becomes a lot of times they will grill the children to try to get information. So I always tell people, like, just don't even put your children in that position. The less they know, the better for them, because then it literally can't be, coerced out of them because they don't even know. Whereas if you tell them, but then you tell them not to tell, or they kind of have a sense that they shouldn't tell. Now they're locked in an emotional battle with that narcissistic person and trying to figure out how to have what the appropriate boundary is and how to have it as a child with a parent that's a narcissist. And that's pretty much always a lose-lose situation for a child. So my recommendation is don't even put them there in the first place. Keep things to yourself that you don't want, the other side to know. If you're saying something to your kids that you don't want the narcissist to know, probably you pretty much shouldn't be saying it. If you'd like more tips on how to confuse a narcissist, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's information on that page on my coaching programs, both the group program and my one-on-one coaching services. And I would love to support you on your journey. See you guys next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.